In the unforgiving arena of modern politics, a single moment can change the national conversation forever. This is the story of how one man, armed not with policy points, but with a grandfather's conviction, faced down a media titan and turned a calculated political ambush into a legendary defense of the next generation. The air in the Oval Office was thick with the managed stillness that precedes a major public event. President Donald Trump, a man whose entire existence seemed to be a public performance, was in a rare moment of quiet reflection. He wasn't looking at briefing books or poll numbers. He was staring at a simple, handwritten letter on his desk, the paper slightly crinkled from being folded and unfolded several times. His youngest son, Barron, stood near the window, his lanky frame silhouetted against the afternoon light. It was Barron who had brought him the letter, forwarded from a school administrator who knew of the White House's upcoming summit on youth mental health. "You should read this one, Dad," he had said, his voice soft but certain. "It's real." The letter was from a 14-year-old girl in Pennsylvania named Hannah. She wrote of a darkness that had consumed her for a year, a relentless storm of online harassment that had made her feel worthless, invisible. She described the taunts, the doctored photos, the social isolation that felt like a physical prison. And then she wrote of how a teacher, a coach, and two friends had pulled her back from the edge, not with grand gestures, but with simple, human kindness. The letter was a raw, unvarnished account of a private war being fought by millions of kids every day. Trump, the grandfather, saw not a statistic, but the face of one of his own grandchildren in Hannah's words. It was a vulnerability he rarely showed, a protective instinct that cut deeper than any political strategy. His longtime aide, Michael Romano, a man weathered by decades of political combat, entered the room. "Sir, it's time. The car is ready." Joy Reid's team confirmed she'll be asking the first question in her exclusive interview segment after your address. Trump nodded. His gaze still fixed on the letter, he carefully folded it and placed it in the inside pocket of his suit jacket. "Let her," Trump said, a strange calm in his voice. "Let's go, Mike." The White House summit was a carefully staged affair, a sea of experts, advocates, and policymakers gathered in the East Room. After a powerful address outlining his administration's new initiatives for online safety, the president sat down for a one-on-one interview, the centerpiece of the event. Joy Reid, a commentator known for her sharp prosecutorial style, took a seat opposite him. The cameras tightened. The nation was watching. Reid began not with a question about the summit's topic, but with a broadside. "Mr. President," she started, her tone dripping with skepticism, "while your focus on children today is noted, many would say it stands in stark contrast to your administration's broader social policies, which critics argue have created a more divisive and hostile environment for vulnerable communities. How do you reconcile this apparent contradiction?" It was the classic political gotcha, a question designed to pivot from a topic of unity to one of division. The room tensed. Romano, standing off stage, felt a familiar knot tighten in his stomach. He expected a counterpunch, a fiery rebuttal about the media, a deflection. He did not expect the silence. The president just looked at Reid, letting the accusation hang in the air. He didn't get angry. He didn't attack. Instead, a look of profound seriousness settled on his face. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the crinkled letter. "I could answer your question, Joy," he began, his voice dropping from its usual rally cry to a more intimate, measured tone. "I could talk about policy. I could give you the talking points Mike and his team prepped for me. But I'm not going to. Because this isn't about politics. It shouldn't be." He unfolded the letter. "I want to read you something. This is from a young lady named Hannah. She's 14. He proceeded to read a passage from the letter, his voice steady, delivering the young girl's words about loneliness and despair with a gravity that commanded the room's absolute attention. He spoke of her feeling like a ghost in her own school hallways, of the digital whispers that screamed louder than any real voice. When he finished, he looked up, not just at Reid, but at every camera, every person in the room. This, Joy, this is what's real. This isn't about red states or blue states. It's not about left or right. This is about our children and our grandchildren. This is about the darkness that is trying to swallow them. And we, all of us, have a moral duty to be the light. I'm not interested in fighting with you about politics today. I'm interested in fighting for Hannah and for every kid just like her. He then turned to the audience. I'm calling for a unified, political front. I want to work with everyone, from every party, to make the online world a safer place for our kids. The room was stunned into silence, then erupted into spontaneous, sustained applause. Joy Reid was momentarily speechless. The political frame she had so carefully constructed shattered in an instant. The interview was effectively over. A moral victory had been won, not with a roar, but with a father's resolve. The moment went nuclear. Before the summit had even concluded, the clip was everywhere. It wasn't just on the news. It was on TikTok, set to emotional music. It was on Instagram, shared by mommy bloggers and celebrity parents. It was on Facebook, sparking emotional comment threads from parents who had seen the same pain in their own children's eyes. The hashtag Fight for Hannah trended for 3 days. For a brief, shining moment, the story wasn't about politics, it was about parenthood. But the firestorm had two fronts. The backlash from the political media was as swift as it was ferocious. Pundits on rival networks decried it as emotional manipulation. Op-eds accused the president of a masterful, yet cynical, act of deflection. Joy Reid, having regained her footing, dedicated the opening monologue of her next podcast to dissecting the performance, calling it a dangerous evasion from a leader unwilling to face legitimate criticism. The private toll of this public war began to mount almost immediately. Late that night, the president sat in the residence, the glow of a television screen flickering across his exhausted face. Mike Romano stood beside him, holding a tablet displaying the ugly side of the firestorm. The base loves it, sir. Independents, especially suburban women, are through the roof. But the threats, they're escalating. He scrolled through a summary of flagged emails and social media posts. They were vile, filled with a venom that was becoming terrifyingly commonplace. One message promised to do to his grandchildren what the online bullies had done to Hannah. Trump's jaw tightened. The public praise was abstract, but the threats felt chillingly concrete. Barron walked in, holding his own phone. He looked worried. Dade, you should see the stuff they're saying about Hannah. They found her social media accounts. They're accusing her family of being paid actors. The president felt a surge of protective fury. He had brought this young girl into the national spotlight, and now the very darkness he sought to fight was turning on her. The weight of that responsibility settled on him heavily. He felt a pang of doubt. Had he been right to use her letter? Had he made things worse for her? The next 2 days were a blur of praise and poison. Aides brought him binders of positive press clippings, but it was the hateful voicemails played for him by the Secret Service that echoed in his ears. He was tired. The fight, which had felt so righteous in the moment, now felt draining, a slog through a digital sewer. Then, on the third day, something unexpected happened. Dr. Alana Finch, a renowned child psychologist and a frequent, sharp critic of the administration, published an article in a major magazine. She began by stating her profound political disagreements with the president. But then she wrote, "For one moment, On that stage, Donald Trump was not a politician. He was a grandfather. And he spoke a truth that transcends partisanship, that the mental well-being of our children is a sacred trust, and the failure to protect it is a collective societal failure. We can and should debate policy, but we must not use those debates as an excuse to ignore the five-alarm fire raging in the lives of our youth. The president's call for a unified front should be answered. Romano brought the article to the president in the Oval Office. Trump read it slowly, then read it again. It was a lifeline from the most unexpected of sources. It wasn't just praise, it was validation. It was an acknowledgement from an adversary that the principle he had fought for was more important than the political divisions between them. That evening, he called Hannah's family. He spoke to her father, assuring him they had the full support and protection of the White House, offering resources to shield them from the online mob. He asked to speak to Hannah herself, not as a president, but as a fellow human. He told her she was brave, that her letter had started something important, and that she should never, ever let the darkness win. In that conversation, his resolve solidified. The exhaustion, the threats, the private toll, it all crystallized into a single, unwavering purpose. He had faced the firestorm and had not been consumed. The fight was worth it. He looked at Mike Romano, who still looked worried about the political calculus. Forget the polls, Mike, the president said, his voice clear and firm. We're going to solve this. We're going to bring everyone to the table. Dr. Finch, the Democrats, the tech companies. Everyone. We're going to fight for Hannah. The moment at the summit became more than just a viral clip. It sparked a genuine national dialogue. News segments shifted from political horse trading to featuring parents and children talking, really talking, about the pressures of growing up online. Schools revisited their anti-bullying programs. Tech companies, feeling the heat, announced new parental control features. The conversation had changed because, for one moment, a leader had chosen to be a guardian first and a politician second, reminding a divided nation that on the most fundamental of human issues, there is still common ground to be found. What do you think? Can a single moment of authentic principles still break through the noise of our political world? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of the moments that define our times.